Hello and welcome back to the Half Court Press podcast, the Omaha World-Herald. I'm Wilson Moore here with Jon Walker as always. And John, pretty short turnaround from the last time we did this. I think our last episode was on Thursday. We're back here on Tuesday. Quick turnaround. Didn't have a lot of time to review the film. For some pretty light practices.
Yeah.
Got to stay fresh because it's that time of year.
Yeah. We're still in the end of January. We're still a little sluggish. As soon as we see a two pop up at the beginning of the date, we'll be okay. But this is a good time of year, Wilson, where we have a little bit of a break. We can really, for the first time since the preseason, just kind of focus on ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, not have to scout an opponent, not have to do any of that. We can look ourselves in the mirror and just kind of figure out where we need to go moving into tournament prep.
Yeah.
Oh my man. Yeah, it's about that time of year. It'll be by the next time we do this, I promise it'll be February for anyone listening.
It'd be kind of impressive if it wasn't, because that would mean we're going 2 days in a row
Yeah,
like this with
yeah,
neither team playing tonight. Something insane
yeah,
would have to happen. Um,
yeah.
but yeah. So since the last time we did this, I believe Nebraska and Creighton have each played one game. Uh, Creighton won its game. Nebraska did not. Um, And but I think it points to some larger thematic things to talk about, even though it was only one game for each. Want to just
It's probably especially for Nebraska at this
yeah,
point.
yeah, I get
So
yeah that yeah, Nebraska lost to Maryland by I believe 22
a,
points if I'm not mistaken.
a boatload. Yeah.
Yeah. And this was, on paper, this was a winnable game for Nebraska. Just, Maryland has come on pretty well in the past week or two. It has
Yeah.
not had a particularly good season. If the season ended today, it would be on the outside looking in the NCAA tournament field. This was a game Nebraska could, you know, in theory, come in and win. And the Huskers didn't, and they are now 0 and 5 away from that's not 0 and 5 on the road in at least in conference play this year, which is strange. I mean, I
Yeah.
know like it is hard to win on the road in the Big Ten.
Sure.
We have heard that a lot this
Yeah.
year and to be fair, Nebraska is not the only team that has struggled on the road. No, I don't think anyone has to their extent except for maybe Ohio State. Um,
Right.
which is they're free falling right now, but this is not an Ohio State podcast. We um but we've seen from this Nebraska team a team that can be really, really good at home. This is a team that beat Purdue, that beat Michigan State, that beat Northwestern. That's those are three tournament teams right there at
Yeah.
Pinnacle Bank Arena, and it goes. It's hard to explain because logically it shouldn't matter as much as it does, right? Like I um after the Maryland game, I got to thinking about the scene from Hoosiers. Um, if our listener base is familiar with that, which I would imagine they are,
I'd
given
hope so.
yeah, you know the scene I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
he
yeah.
measures, yeah, it's 15 feet, 10 feet. These are the same dimensions as our gym back home, and I maybe Nebraska would benefit from a
Yeah.
recreation of that scene. I don't know. That's I think if there's a time to break that one out, it'll be when they play Illinois
Yeah.
over the
Dude,
weekend. But just a
you've got to put in a
completely
word with somebody. You've got to, if I don't see that from the Nebraska athletic department in the next 2 weeks or whatever it is, I'm gonna be pretty disappointed.
like
That's a
if
good
if
one.
if we do see it, we will know there are some listeners of the Half Court Press
For
podcast, and
sure, for sure, for sure.
but yeah, just the the difference between this team at Pinnacle Bank Arena and on the road, even, acknowledging that it's hard to win on the road in high major college basketball, just defies logic. It's weird. And I wish I had an explanation for it. I
I feel
don't.
like there I feel like there are five different teams in college basketball this year that I literally heard multiple people say if blank played all of their games at home, if
Yeah.
blank played all of their NCAA tournament games at home, they'd win the national championship. Nebraska is one of them. Like for whatever the reason is, I feel like that's probably applies to what maybe Northwestern at this point too.
Northwestern, yeah.
I think one of the other ones is like Iowa State, and maybe throw, I don't know, Utah State in there, something like just a mid major, But no, for sure. I mean, especially when you look to the Big Ten, everyone struggled on the road, but it's so astonishing how night and day different
Yes.
Nebraska looks. It's not like, oh, we're going on the road and man, we lost by 4 to Maryland.
Yeah.
No, like you got clobbered by a team that's probably on the same level, if not a little bit below. And so it's so weird. Um, their road home splits are probably some of the most fascinating. It's probably one of the most fascinating aspects about the Nebraska team.
Yeah. They're like they're net ratings, offensive and defensive ratings
Yeah,
at home over a full season would be the second best in the Big Ten, and
yeah,
on the road
yeah,
would be 14. They they
yeah,
are they're a Purdue away from being the best team in the conference at home and the worst team on the road.
yeah. And it's like that right there kind of, that you mentioned Purdue, kind of shows you how, I don't even know what it is at this point. Is it how tough it is to play in Lincoln, or is it how well the Huskers play in Lincoln? I'm not sure at this point. Like, it's just
I
every home environment in the Big Ten tough to play in.
Yeah, I lean toward they play well in Lincoln. Um,
It's 10
they
feet. I mean,
10 feet, 15 feet from the free throw line. Yeah. I don't know. It's the Maryland game was the second time on the road that, and I don't know if this is bad luck or bad defense or both, but that a team that does not shoot the ball well from three has just gone crazy against Nebraska, because Rutgers
yeah,
did the same thing. And I suspect it's a combination of both. Uh, poor perimeter defense and also just bad luck catching them on catching an opponent on one of their
right,
few good
right.
shooting nights a year. But that's another factor in there. It's
Yeah, we've seen that a little bit with Creighton. I think it's like really the Marquette game. I think they had Sean Jones come off the bench. He's like a 20 something percent career 3-point shooter and went like 3 for 4 or something like that from deep. And that's kind of what it seems like Nebraska has run into a little bit, is that, I saw them in person against Creighton. They were going to run people off the 3-point line. You have to beat Creighton. But every team does this. It's not just Fred in Nebraska. They go into the game saying he can shoot it. If he is open, fine. Take away the drive, let him shoot it. But then you have people who just have the out of body game, and you hit 4 consecutive threes, and that's the difference in the game. I mean, it pays so many dividends to get a guy like that going early and just open everything up, because then you
like
have to abandon your scouting report.
yeah,
That same guy that you said, hey, we'll let him shoot it. Don't let blank backdoor cut from the corner all the
yeah.
time. now you have to step up on that guy. There goes the cut. Here comes a rotation that you weren't prepared for, and it just throws everything off. So yeah, it's so tough, and that happens more in college basketball nowadays, I think, because the role players are a little bit better.
Yeah.
But it is so disheartening when you
Yeah.
know a guy does not shoot it well, and he comes out with a flamethrower.
Yeah.
It's so tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Nebraska, yeah, TBA if they could play all their NCAA tournament games, which I don't think they'll have to be too far. Um, but Omaha's not Lincoln, so I don't know if it has the same effect on other teams as it does in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Speaking
Yeah,
of the team that plays in Omaha, John,
that's
Creighton,
good.
pink out game. They beat DePaul.
Took a little bit. Took a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, took quite a bit longer than people probably expected. I said it when the first game after they relieved Tony Stubblefield, and I think we saw that in the first half. But when they played Marquette, I was like, they look a little juiced. Like I don't know if it's the midseason coaching change. I don't know what it is, but like watching DePaul from 3 weeks ago, a team that let Creighton clobber them on their own floor from start to finish. That team looked like it did not want to play basketball. I don't know what Matt Brady's done in the week that he's been the interim, but again, they've just looked a little more juiced. They look like they want to play. They want to win a game. They hung in there with Marquette for a little bit. And they only trailed Creighton by 3 points at halftime. And it was at that point that I was just sitting there, laptop in front of me, thinking to myself, no way Creighton loses this game, right? Like there's no way. And then yeah, there was no way. The Jays outscored them by 20 in the second half, and that was it. Trey Alexander kind of did what he does. Hit a three right out of halftime, hit an and one on the next time down the floor, and that was it. I don't know what that sparked, but the Jays went on a 26-4 run. I mean, that's the game right there. And DePaul didn't entirely go away, but a team that's already winless in league play, when you give up a 26-4 run after being oh so close at halftime, you're hurting a little bit. So the DePaul from a few weeks ago crept back in toward the end, but I mean yeah, that those first 15 minutes of the second half were everything that Creighton needed them to be. Aside from the fact that they needed to get people rest, no matter how you cut it. Like DePaul is an opponent. I don't know if that's changed under Matt Brady. DePaul's an opponent that you should be able to get rest against. They were able to in the first game. We're not able to on Saturday, and that's probably the thing that people will take away. The biggest takeaway people have from that game, and that's fine. I mean, it's completely justifiable because I'm right there with them. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. And then the pink out, that was pretty cool. That was
I was
my
gonna ask how was the pink out?
yeah, no, it was cool. My mom had and beat breast cancer. And so, yeah, that was just like kind of a surreal experience. I played like sports in high school and stuff. I'd always have like pink cleats or pink armbands or whatever. So I've always been like a pink out fan. My Division II school, shout out Northwest, they do like a small kind of cancer awareness game. But I'd imagine there are not many places that do it like Creighton does. I mean, yeah, it was nuts. There was a little bit of blue scattered throughout there, but the whole place was pink, man. It was cool. It was cool for a college basketball environment to be like that. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll see. 3-game homestand.
Yeah.
They'll get Butler Friday. First meeting of the season between the two. Nobody knows what to expect. Butler is just okay this year. They've hung in a couple of games, but you know,
Sure.
this isn't Brad Stevens Butler. So
They are better than last year.
they are better than last year. That they are especially defensively. They are better than last year. Um, yeah, so I don't think the Jay should have a problem with Butler in theory. Um, but man, it's the Big East. You never really know. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I like what Thad Mott has done with that
Yeah.
program. Like
No,
I was
he's good.
yeah, I lived in Indianapolis last year. I covered one Butler game, the passing familiarity.
Big East,
Uh,
yeah, returning an old friend of the Big East, Wilson Moore.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think I've now covered two Big East games in my life. That game at Butler last year, and then Creighton, Nebraska earlier
This
this
year.
season. Yeah,
Yeah.
but Nebraska has Wisconsin once again. It is the first time this year the Huskers are repeating an opponent. Um, and Wisconsin took it to them last time. Now
Yeah.
we have been over the difference between this team um at Pinnacle Bank Arena and on the road. So I think there's every reason to expect that this next game will be more competitive just
Yeah.
for that reason. But I still don't think, regardless of where you play it, and maybe saying those words is a bad idea when talking about this Nebraska team. I just don't think Nebraska matches up with Wisconsin very well. I think with the way the Huskers play defense, they're and bringing pressure to the post and doubling down low. That is most exposed by a big man who can pass the ball real well, and Stephen
Yeah.
Crowell did that in Madison. That just uh, it diced up Nebraska's defense, and Nebraska has struggled against teams that move the ball well, and I think Wisconsin might do that better than anyone else in the Big Ten, just swinging the ball around,
Yeah.
playing hot potato,
Yeah.
not letting it get stagnant. So I so that's a tough matchup for Nebraska. With that said, at this point in the year with this team, I'm kind of just like, well, anything that happens, I'm just like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like
It makes
it's
sense. Yeah, it makes
yeah,
sense. Oh, they beat Wisconsin by 30 in Lincoln. It makes sense. Oh,
yeah,
they lose to Illinois on the road by 40. Nah, that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah,
Like, yeah, that's exactly right.
yeah. So we'll see. It's one that um uh it would be big for Nebraska if they got it. I because this is not a forgiving part of the schedule where Nebraska
No.
is right now. They got Wisconsin at home, Illinois on the road, Northwestern on the road. That is a gauntlet of three games. And I think last week I said Nebraska needed to win two of four to be like
Hmm.
really sitting pretty. And I think their best shot was that Maryland game. That was the weakest opponent of those four. So they really gotta step up and put themselves into position by February 10th or whenever this little
Yeah.
run is over, and the schedule lightens up a little bit after that.
Yeah. That'll be 2-2 is obviously the place you want to be. It's Illinois, Northwestern, Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Surely if you can get one of those, and if it is Wisconsin or at Illinois, that would still suffice.
yeah, yeah,
Like if you're two wins in that, if you could have told me to pick two, the weakest ones obviously would have been Maryland and
yeah,
Northwestern.
yeah.
So
But Northwestern at home is,
right.
especially after Nebraska. Nebraska won by four, I think. Maybe they hit some free throws at the end. It was either four or
Hmm.
six, and that was at PBA.
Yeah. So, those are I think if you could get one of the ranked, because yeah, Northwestern's not ranked, are they?
No,
No, I didn't think so. I didn't see them in the poll. If you can
certainly
get
pretty
one of
short.
those ranked wins over Illinois or Wisconsin, you probably still did your job in terms of
Yeah,
your resume, your tournament resume.
yeah,
But the loss to Maryland, I guess the only good thing is it was on the road.
yeah,
So, it'll get some grace in a committee's eyes or whatever it might be. But you gotta win on the road, man. One,
yeah,
just one, just one. I don't know. We'll see. I think it'll be an interesting February for both of these teams.
yeah, yeah. What what
Um,
what 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 does Creighton's outlook look like? Kind of in the
yeah, yeah,
middle to
they've got a little bit of a they play Butler and then I think they get the Xavier rematch, maybe. I'm pulling it up. But yeah, okay, so they get Butler, um, and then at Providence next week, at Xavier, and then they host Georgetown. And then they go to Indy to play Butler on NBA All-Star Weekend.
nice.
So that's pretty cool. And then yeah, to close out the regular season, UConn at St. John's, Seton Hall, Marquette at Villanova.
That's
I mean,
that's
that's
brutal.
if you I think Creighton is to the point where they can pretty much, especially over the past few years, they can say like we're going to the tournament. And so now it's about tournament prep in
Yeah,
in February. If you want to get prep to make a run in March, those last 5 games do that.
yeah,
If you can make it out of those, you're gonna make a run.
yeah.
Because I mean that is yeah. UConn, St. John, Seton Hall, Marquette, Nova. That's
That's harder than a team. That's harder than the NCAA tournament, just like in terms of quality of opponents.
yeah, yeah. You're starting off with UConn. You're not
Yeah,
gonna get a Norfolk State and then
yeah,
snowball it into Villanova and
yeah.
then get UConn. No, 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 no. So I don't know. They finished January 7-1. The only loss was at UConn. On paper, you can live with that. Um, obviously, would have loved to have beaten UConn. They'll have a chance to in 3 weeks if UConn is still number one when they come to Omaha. Um, if this college basketball season has told us anything, it's that UConn will not be number one in 3 weeks. But well, no, we'll see. I think they're probably right now the best team in the country. And Creighton will have a chance to pull off another upset over them. I think they're like 6-1, UConn 6-2, something like that since UConn since like 2020. So yeah, I think the Jays will be fine, but the next couple of weeks are going to be about just staying focused. And like I said, Xavier, Georgetown, Butler, you could probably find yourself falling asleep somewhere in there. Good teams do not do that. Tournament teams do not do that. And so that's kind of what I mean by this month is about tournament prep for them. Meanwhile, for Nebraska, it's about getting into the tournament.
Yes, absolutely.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I think we could have ended just about every episode with that because, I mean, no one really knows anything clearly.
Dude,
Um,
not in this
no,
and I feel like 4 years ago, you could have sat down and filled out a bracket. And if you had two of the four regions as chalk, you were probably right. We saw it last year. When people sit down to fill them out this year, good luck. Like you have literally no clue. I mean, everyone in the country says this, but the parity in college basketball is insane. Is
yeah. I
is
mean,
nuts.
we see it. What, like 75% of the 15 seeds that have won a tournament game have been in the past like decade or so. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And then, yeah, transfer portal and almost every school has, NIL, and it's just, yeah. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that, in the kind of, in the will sees, in the who is going to be number one next week. In the, is Kansas going to lose to another inferior Big 12 opponent? You just kind of see it everywhere, in every league, with every team. So yeah, buckle up. It'll be a fun
Yeah.
February and an even better March.
Yeah. John, this is our last episode in January, which means the next time we do this, it will be February, which is
We're
only which is the next which is the month before March. So we're getting there. We
It's our tournament prep, man. It's our tournament prep. We're gonna get ready in February, and we'll but I think the important thing is that we did have this time between Thursday and now to
yeah.
just kind of self-evaluate
Yeah.
and yeah, just figure out what we need to hone in on moving forward so that maybe we can make a little bit of noise in the tournament.
And with that, thank you again for listening. This has been the Half Court Press Podcast.